Hello, hello, Courtney here. This is episode 27 of the Yay for Business podcast, all about time management for rebels. I am ridiculously obsessed with learning about, reading about, thinking about time management, productivity, all of that, like getting things done. How do people produce results, take action? How do people spend their work days? And one of the big reasons I've discovered that I'm so interested in these topics is because most of the strategies don't work for me. And that said, I'm a very action-oriented person. And so I know that there's ways that I could be more productive, that I could be more efficient, that I could be doing better, as always, right? But I want to share in today's episode what I've learned about time management and when I say for rebels. I've long used this term before I was ever diagnosed or even aware of ADHD and what it really is. And I always considered myself a rebel in the sense that I've always really struggled with following the sort of advice that works for other people. The whole just schedule on your calendar and like an appointment and then you'll follow it. Like when people say, if you want to go to the gym or exercise, just put it on your calendar like you would an appointment and then you'll do it. I'm like, no, you won't. Like, do people really do that? That's just so not a concept for me. So time management has long been an elusive concept for me. Sometimes I have a really good grasp on it and other times I don't. And as someone with a neurodivergent brain, as I think most people, I think a quote unquote neurotypical brain is a very rare thing. I think a lot of us just are unaware of the ways that our brains are unique. But as someone who is aware of the, some of the neurodivergence in my brain, I know that I can be really good at getting started with a strategy, but I will not maintain it in the long term. And that over time became a really frustrating pattern for me because I started to lose confidence in myself that I would be able to stick with things. And I had some coaching, and I don't want to say that this was a bad coach or anything, but I had some coaching advice where I interpret it as I'm acting out of integrity or I'm making excuses if I, have a system and then I don't follow it. When I really feel like for me, I can't follow the system. I can for a week, maybe two, and then I really can't anymore. And so learning that my brain just works differently gave me all the self-compassion that I've needed to embrace how I really work. And I share that not to center myself or talk about myself or how I'm so unique and special, but because I really want to provide a different example and share from a different perspective that time management and productivity does not have to be color-coded calendars that you follow to a T and perfect organization and optimize this and optimize that and follow checklists for everything and all of that. Okay. If that works for you, that's fine. If you're the organized type who lives and dies by their planner, who once it's on your calendar, it's as good as done, then let's do it, my friend. Go for it. This episode is not going to be about that. But if that is you, I want you to stick around because hopefully this episode is going to help you to give yourself some grace, because I find the people I know who are like that, those highly, highly organized types, can be very much perfectionists and can really struggle with allowing things to get a little messy. I also think it's really important for you to understand how other people think and how other people function, and that they aren't necessarily going to fit into that model, which I know can be really frustrating. If you're a messypreneur or a rebelpreneur like me, this episode will give you some grace and hopefully some strategies that are going to help you with time management. But really, the name of the game here is self-compassion. Okay. So that's what we're going to sprinkle throughout. That's our foundation of everything. People I'm calling, rebelpreneurs or folks with ADHD or other special awesome brains don't like to follow a schedule. We are literally revolted by our calendars. I resonate so hard with folks who tell me, Courtney, how do I get myself to follow my calendar? It's literally if it's on my calendar, it's more likely I'm not going to do it because I feel like my calendar is telling me what to do and I don't want to do it. And it's not that I'm being a brat. And this is the thing I want you to understand. you're not being a brat. This is just part of how your brain is functioning. I will not follow a calendar to a T. Right now on my calendar, this is a Wednesday as I'm recording this, and I had scheduled time to record this podcast episode in the afternoon at about 3 o'clock, I believe. But it is now 11:20, and I was like, oh, I feel like recording the episode now. So I'm just going to move the thing I was going to do now, and I'm going to come back to that in the afternoon instead. So I really try to stay in alignment with who I am. And part of what's really important for me as an individual is to go with the flow of my energy and do what really lights me up. And when I try to stick myself in a box and follow the schedule, it drains me. I don't do my best work. I'm miserable. My brain won't turn on. It's awful. And so when I create my most genius stuff, the things that I'm known for usually come when I'm not supposed to be doing that thing, when I was supposed to be doing something else. And so I want to praise that rebellion and praise that creativity, but also understanding, hey, we're running businesses. We do need to get those things done. So here's what I try to remember when I look at my calendar and when I'm managing my own calendar, because I'm just coming out of a phase where I really was sort of like a slave to my calendar, and it was awful and I didn't like it at all. I didn't realize it until it started to end, and then I'm like, oh wow, that sucked. So here's how I try to see it now, and here's what I try to remind myself. My calendar, and specifically I'm talking about my Google Calendar, is a tool that I use to help me get what I want. The tool isn't in charge. I'm in charge. I'm using the tool to get what I want. Now, the tool is helping me in a lot of ways, the calendar. It's helping me to remember all of my appointments, all of my meetings. I do live and die by, if I have a doctor's appointment, an acupuncture appointment, a therapy appointment, a meeting with a team member, a podcast interview, it better be on the calendar. And bonus points, and not just bonus points, I prefer that it's not something I had to put on the calendar, but somebody else put on my calendar, because I make mistakes so much putting things on calendars and double book myself and put things on the wrong day or the wrong time or whatever it is. Okay. So my calendar is really helping me to make sure that I remember when all those appointments are. And that is a wonderful quality. I'm very grateful for that. So I'm remembering all these positive qualities about my calendar. I get to use my calendar however I want. So sometimes I like to really block off my day because I have a lot to do and I want to make sure that I'm organizing my time and getting everything done. More often than not, however, I prefer to have a lot of open space. So I use my calendar as, hey, when do I have to be somewhere or when do I have to do something? But I don't schedule everything that I need to do on my calendar. I tried that. I tried doing, a method that was very stringent and very strict about like scheduling every single thing and following it. And it killed me. It killed my spirit. And I won't do it again. And I say I won't do it again. I probably will do it again at some point, because I'll get inspired and be like, this is what I need to do. And then I will. And that's fine. That's part of my process. But having that self-compassion of knowing I'll do it and it won't last forever and that'll be okay. And I'll love myself through it. And then I'll find what's working for me next. That's really the secret here. When I say self-compassion is the foundation, that's it. It's not the, I need to follow the strategy that's going to fix everything. It's loving yourself and having compassion for yourself when you don't continue to follow the strategy or when things become a mess. Now, sometimes, back to this, how we're looking at our calendar, sometimes we have to do things we don't feel like doing in order to get what we want. So we have to take a hit in the short term, right? I don't feel like doing this thing right now, but I know that if I don't do this thing now, I'm going to regret it 10 times more later on. So let's say something comes up. So we're planning our next virtual conference for the end of May 31st through June 4th. Tickets will be on sale soon. Can't wait to tell you more about that. Little plug there. But we have this huge project going on for our virtual conference, and there's a lot. And I avoid it like the plague. As I said on Instagram, I avoid it like COVID. And I hate looking at ClickUp. I love ClickUp for keeping all of our tasks organized and everything that needs to happen in the business and all of that. But I feel the same way about ClickUp as I do about my Google Calendar. Stop telling me what to do. It's overwhelming. It doesn't go in my brain the way I look at it. It just overwhelms me. So I know that I will avoid taking action on that project because I'm overwhelmed. So I also know, because I've done a conference before, that I will put myself through immense stress, turmoil, and frankly, like trauma mentally if I don't take the actions I need to take. It's going to put me in a very, very bad place, which did happen last time. I really put myself in a very challenging position mentally. So I don't want to do that again. Now, I don't want to do the thing right now, and I don't want to put myself in that position later on. And I'm not judging either of those things. What I'm doing is making sure that in the moment, I'm giving myself all that information of, look, I realize I don't want to do it right now. I also don't want to feel like utter crap later on and like have to like reel from the trauma of like putting myself in that position. So what is it that I need to do to like get started in a way that feels good? So I offer myself more compassionate questions, not like, why am I not getting started? I need to do this. What's wrong with you? I used to do that. Like that used to be my MO. What's wrong with you? Get this done. Other people get things done. Why can't you? Just like awful anxiety, the way that we should never talk to ourselves or anyone else. Now what I ask myself is, okay, what do you need in order to get excited about this project, in order to take action in this project? What would help you with that? So my answer to that yesterday was, I need a poster board and I need to sit and spend some time laying this out visually. So I shared this on my Instagram stories, if you saw that I shared sort of my visual layout, and this lit me up. Now I have this visual. I feel like I've been plugged into the project. I don't know how else to explain it. I felt like I was circling around the project, but I couldn't get in. Now I feel like I'm plugged into the project. So that really helped. So I ask myself the same questions when there's anything on my calendar that I need to do that I don't want to, or I notice that I've been avoiding for a while, is what is it about this that is causing me to avoid it? And that's legitimate. I'm not just going to berate myself for avoiding it. But also, is it something that really needs to happen? And if it is, why does it really need to happen? Because sometimes I think we give ourselves all this busy work. We give ourselves too many things to do. And then we get mad at ourselves for not doing it. But maybe you don't need to do all that stuff. So maybe we need to really hone in on what's important. Now, I'm going to shamelessly plug Yay for 100K because as I do, it's like my whole life is this program. That's one of the big things we notice with our clients in Yay for 100K is not to any fault of their own or your own. As business owners, we tend to do a lot of random stuff. We just do stuff. And especially when it comes to things like content and social media marketing and looking for clients and all that really important marketing stuff, is we don't really have a plan. We just feel stressed about it all the time and like don't take consistent action and then are frustrated and then it just continues and continues and then feel like perfectionists about it. So what we need to focus on is, what are the buttons you need to push? Because there's buttons that are really shiny that you want to push or other people are telling you should push, but are just a waste of your time. So let's make sure that the things that are on your calendar are actually helping you to achieve your goals. And if you don't know what you need to do to achieve your goals, stop trying to figure it out by yourself. Get yourself in a course, in a program. Join us in Yay for 100K. Join another program. Doesn't matter to me, but it is a waste of your time trying to figure it out yourself. There's absolutely no reason anyone needs to be doing that. There's programs accessible at all different price points and all different things. Yay for 100K is a higher ticket program, but there's all kinds of things you can do to kind of help yourself figure out what is that next step. All right. But that's what you need, is stop trying to figure it out by yourself. Get some guidance, get some support. But when we realize what we need to do, we need to remind ourselves when we look at that thing on our calendar, why it's there. That thing is going to help me achieve a goal I have. And if I don't do that thing, what is the consequence of that? Well, if I don't do this thing, I'm going to feel really shitty about it 3 days from now, a week from now, a month from now. And so what I like to do is call into, vision, right? In my mind's eye, my future self a week from now, 3 days from now, who also isn't going to want to do the thing, but is going to be really grateful that I, the past self, did the thing. And so I'm not saying it works perfectly and then I follow my calendar all the time. I'm very loosey-goosey with myself. I very much allow myself to move things around and follow what's exciting for me and what lights me up in the moment. At the same time, I also have just this constant sense of, hey, there's this thing you really need to make sure to take care of this week. Now, I really like in terms of planning your week, I really, really like the 3 big rocks concept. So if you really struggle with like, what do I need to focus on, all of that, what I would say is step back from the calendar every single week, ask yourself, what are the 3 big things I need to focus on this week? If I did nothing else, what are the 3 things I need to get done? And list those 3 things. Put it on a sticky note, put it on your computer, what have you. Then what you need to do is just make sure you focus on getting those things done. Those are the things that are going to move the needle forward. Those are like the imperative things that need to happen. And then everything else can kind of fill in the gaps. So that's just one good strategy for stepping back and not feeling overwhelmed by being overscheduled, but being really clear on what's important to you. What do you know you need to focus on? Inside of Yay for 100K, for example, we ask our clients every single week, what is your one commitment for this week? What is the one thing you're going to make sure to do? Because we want to make sure, like obviously you might have other commitments in your business, in your life, but in implementing this program, we want to make sure you're taking at least one step forward every single week. It's about those baby steps. It's about, those atomic habits, right? Those small steps forward, not necessarily big leaps, are going to add up. And so every single week asking yourself, what are the 3 big rocks for this week? Okay. All right. So self-care. I have a note here in my outline that says self-care first. And this is something I'm really focused on in 2021, and I'm doing it very, very imperfectly. Self-care, in my mind, should be scheduled before anything else. And when I say scheduled, I don't mean scheduling going to the gym so that you'll do it, or like scheduling your sleep time and all that. But what I am saying is having boundaries on your schedule that are to protect yourself from yourself. Let me say that again. Have boundaries on your schedule to protect yourself from yourself. Now, I don't have a 4-step magic process or formula to do this. This isn't like some cookie cutter process or anything like that. Sometimes this looks like not taking meetings before 10 a.m., which I do not, except for in special situations if I really need to meet with someone and they're in a very different time zone and I have a relatively lax week, etc. Okay? I don't take meetings before 10 a.m., even though I'm in a difficult time zone to do that, Pacific time. We're already behind everyone. And then I'm like, yeah, you're gonna have to wait until like evening to talk to me. I need that. That's necessary. I'm cranky and resentful and I don't function well if I take meetings earlier than that. All right. Sometimes it looks like having a wind down routine. Do you have an end of day? Do you turn off your computer? My computer at this moment is sitting on our dining room table. I have it literally scheduled to shut down automatically at 6 p.m. so that it's just off. Because if it's not, I'll just be like, oh, let me look at this. Oh, let me look at that. Okay. So having a wind down routine. At the end of the day, what I try to do, I do this very imperfectly, but I look at my schedule for the next day, kind of outline my day a little bit, and then I wind down my day. That's it. Sometimes I don't do it. Sometimes I do. I'm very self-compassionate with myself about that. Self-care first can look like not having an alarm clock, because why? If you have a reason to have to wake up at a certain time, totally fine. Do it. Absolutely. But so many of us are in this culture of this perpetuated nonsense that the time you wake up in the morning and your morning routine is like this signifier of success, which is just absolutely ludicrous. It enrages me so much. And one of the reasons this enrages me so much is not just because it's the patriarchy and all that fun stuff, but because science shows that our chronobiology, our circadian rhythms, the internal clock you have, right, of when you wake up, when you go to sleep, is very hardwired. It's very biological. And so for people who are night owls, let's say, who are constantly living in a world that is not set up for them. And if you have ADHD or something, like it's more likely to be a night owl. You are constantly fighting an uphill battle anyway, right? Then to be constantly fed this lie that in order to be successful, you need to wake up at 5 a.m. and do these 10 things and like that's it, it's just everyone perpetuates it because other people perpetuate it and then they do it and then they perpetuate it. It's absolutely not necessary. What we're not hearing from is all the people who don't do that, who don't talk about it because they're not interested in talking about it. Like me, usually. Now, I did the 5 a.m. thing. I did it a few years ago. There's a video on my YouTube channel I did of like my morning when I was waking up doing the 5 a.m. club thing. And it was fine. It was fun. Like I said, I try these things on. I'm not saying I'll never do it again. What I'm saying is what I will not do is perpetuate that in order to to be successful, you need to wake up at a certain time of day. So that's my little side rant there. Let go of it. Self-compassion. Embrace who you are, not who you think you need to be. All right. I'm a mess. I am a messy person. And that is who I am. And when I say it's who I am, I do mean that. Like, I am a messy person because all of my positive qualities come from that. And then the quote unquote, perceived negative qualities of having a messy house and my desk is a mess right now and all that is really just other people don't want it to be that way. And sometimes it can be stressful to look at, so I clean it up. But if I try to be tidy all the time, I lose the magic of my mess, which is my creative genius. I refuse to do that. I absolutely refuse to do that. So self-care first is what we're talking about. Sometimes this looks like sleeping and not getting up to an alarm clock. Sometimes it looks like hard exercise. Sometimes it looks like going for a walk in nature. Sometimes it looks like sitting on the couch and watching Netflix. Sometimes it looks like having an organized schedule for a particularly challenging day. It always looks like self-compassion. Always, no matter what's going on. Okay. So I wanted to give that piece about self-care because that should be the foundation. Self-compassion, self-care, absolute foundation of your schedule of your day is no matter what, I'm fine. I love myself. I embrace who I am. Here's what I want to try to do today. Here's what we're going to aim for. And along the way, I'm going to continue the self-care and the self-compassion. Self-care looks like not scheduling back-to-back meetings without breaks. Self-care looks like making sure you have time to eat a proper lunch that fuels you and that is pleasurable, that you enjoy. Self-care is not staring at the screen all day. Okay. Self-care is moving your body. Self-care is your self-talk about your schedule and things like that. Okay. My next point is knowing your work priorities. I want to talk about being reactive in your planning versus proactive in your planning. Okay. This amazes me. I feel like we're all obsessed with productivity, but we don't learn basic prioritizing and time management in school. And I mean, at the most basic level of like, what is the goal? What are the milestones to get to the goal? What do we need to focus on to get there? What are things that are just distracting us from that goal that sound fun that we need to put on the back burner? And like, how do we want to spend our time? I mean, it's really as simple as that. However, so many entrepreneurs, most of us, we go through this process of like waking up and going, what am I going to do today? Oh, I need clients. Shit. Oh, I need to do that thing. Oh my God, that client has an email. Oh my God, I email from this person. Oh, I got to pay this bill. I got to just reacting to constant. Oh, now I'm on Instagram for an hour and I don't know what happened. Oh, I got to post on Instagram. Oh, I should create a reel. It's just this constant like chitter chatter, just constant in the brain. It's all the tabs open at the same time. It's all of that. So I'm not saying like you should be like a monk and just focusing and with no distractions and no messiness or anything at all. I also think that there's an extreme other end where we're just spinning our wheels like hamsters. So much time is spent creating things that are not the best use of your energy, which is draining your resources and making it hard for you to get results. What I'm talking about here is not a rigid schedule, but a higher level sense of what is my priority right now and what is extra. I have a million ideas a minute. Most of those things I don't even write down. The ones that are good, I write down. Some of them I implement. A lot of them I don't. Some of them I'm like, I just really want to search this right now and I just want to spend a little bit of time on it. So I give myself a little time to do that. But I have to remember, what am I already working towards? The shiny object of like, this sounds fun, can help to get you going. And that can be kind of a great hack for someone with ADHD. And if you're not sure if you have ADHD or you don't or whatever, it could be still a good hack for you. A lot of ADHD strategies actually work for everybody. They're just essential for people with ADHD, is starting with the fun thing. So start with the shiny object. If you're having a hard time getting going in the morning, start with the fun thing that isn't what you're supposed to be doing to get your brain turned on, to get going. Give yourself a time limit with that and then try to transition into the next thing. I have like all these wild ideas, especially in the morning, especially if I wake up really early, I'll get these like crazy ideas and I just want to spend hours on them. So I do spend time on them in the morning. But then I give myself space for that, but then I need to get started on my workday. I do encourage that you listen to episode 14 where I talked about anti-planning and episode 15 where I talked about realistic goal setting, because those are kind of the high level conversations around figuring out what is a priority for you in your business. What do you need to be working working on in my approach to planning, which I called anti-planning, and what I mean by realistic goal setting. The other thing we want to talk about when it comes to like knowing your work is short-term versus long-term thinking. We get so concerned about what feels urgent right now, and specifically like, I need to make money this month, or I need to make money this month or next month, but usually this month, that we make decisions for this month that are going to take us away from our long-term plan. So I see this happen a lot. Somebody wants to make 6 figures this year. And so they have a plan. Okay, I need this many clients a month. I need, to enroll people in my course. I'm going to launch twice a year, et cetera. Okay, I've got this like high level plan. Well, then like April rolls around. Okay. It's April. Rolls around and it's like, oh, but I need to make money in April. So I'm going to create this. I'm going to create that. I'm going to create a workshop. I'm going to create a this. I'm going to create a that. And so we start coming up with all these ideas. Now the ideas get created because you're in that pressure cooker, right? And it can be a really great environment for coming up with ideas. But really what needs to be focused on is, what do I need to do to hit the goal? The goal is to book clients. So what do I need to do? What's the lowest hanging fruit way for me to book clients this month? Not all these random things I could do to generate a couple $100s. So remembering the long-term goal and taking actions towards the long-term goal. Otherwise, again, you end up on that hamster wheel. For us with ADHD, we also have this like, everything happens now or never. We don't really have timelines in our brains. It's like just a mess of everything existing all at the same time. So that can be particularly challenging. I do understand. I think acknowledging that about yourself, writing all those things down, and then being really clear on what your goals are for the year and what actually does need to happen to make those goals happen is really important. So being in a coaching program like Yay for 100K is a great place to be if that's something you really struggle with, because you get a plan for that, right? You have a map for exactly what you need to do and what you don't need to do, and support to stop you when you start doing things that are getting in your way, and fuel you when you're doing things that are going to help you achieve those long-term goals. We have such unrealistic expectations about how much we can accomplish in a day, a week, a month, a year even sometimes. I think sometimes when it gets to a year, we actually underestimate ourselves and we overestimate the day, the week, the month. This is the number one time management culprit for all entrepreneurs. I'm all about realistic goal setting, which I talk about in my podcast episode about that I just told you guys about. This often means cutting your goals in half. Think about it. Would you rather set yourself up for failure because you're trying to make something huge happen without enough time or resources, and it's stressing you out and making you feel like a failure? Or would you rather make peace with it now that that's not realistic, instead of later when it crushes you, and set a more realistic goal that you can work towards, which makes it more likely that you're going to hit the bigger goal in the end anyway, because you're actually making progress, not paralyzed. Take your 1-year goal. This is a thought experiment, okay? I want you to just play with this. Take your revenue goal for this year, and I want you to consider what it would look like to give yourself 3 years to get to that goal. So let's say your revenue goal is $100,000. I'm not saying you make $33,000 a year. I'm saying, okay, maybe this year it's 60,000. Next year it's 75. Then it's 100. What if we gave ourselves more time to hit the goals? We can say, I want to make $100,000. It doesn't mean I have to do it this year. So for me, I'm working towards a $1 million business, but that's like a 3 to 5 year plan for me. I am all about slow growth, guys, all about slow growth. And it doesn't mean that you can't like have a big goal for 100,000 this year. It doesn't mean you have to change your goal. I'm just saying what would happen if you did give yourself more time. What would happen if you just gave yourself that spaciousness and that compassion? So many of us are terrified of not hitting our goals, but then we don't hit our goals and then we're perfectly fine, except we're disappointed because we had such a unreasonable expectation. So it's like, we want to set the big goal now because we're excited about it, but we're going to be even more crushed later because we get attached to the goal. What if we set the big goal, give ourselves more time for it, set a more reasonable goal for this year, and work towards that and actually hit the goal, and then felt really good about ourselves about it? Imagine that. Okay, my next prompt here is, what would need to happen for you to take 2 weeks off this summer? I'm going to do a whole podcast episode on this in June. Just was mapping out June episodes. So keep your ears open. Keep your eyes open in your podcast feed for that. What would need to happen for you to take a week off every quarter? These are thought experiments, right? These aren't like you have to do it, but it's margin, it's self-care, it's freedom. These are all the things we say we want when we start our businesses. And then we work nights and weekends because we're not planning in advance, because we don't have those boundaries on our schedule to protect ourselves from ourselves. All right. We talk a lot in E400K. I talk a lot just in general on the podcast and everywhere about boundaries with clients. But what really ends up happening is it's the boundaries that you have with yourself. It is non-negotiable for me that our company is taking 2 weeks off in July. We're actually going to shut down entirely for the last 2 weeks of July. And we're going to be really organized about it, and it's going to be awesome. And we're going to model this for our clients, and they're going to benefit from it and have healthier lifestyles and businesses and brains for it. But really having those constraints on your schedule, because here's what we tell people is like, if you just close down those weeks, you just make them not available, you'll figure out the work around it. Work expands to fill the time allotted. That's the Pareto principle. Okay. So you are wanting to like maximize all the time. Well, then constrain the time. Give yourself less time. Now, I know I just said like extend the time period for your goals, but when it comes to things like having margin and self-care and vacations and weekends, these are active rest activities that are the work. Part of work and part of the productivity and part of the time management is active rest, is intentional rest. So I realize some of you are in position, everyone's in unique positions, right? And some people are in positions where maybe you have young children that have been at home for a year, and you're in like a really stressful situation. I don't even want to pretend to understand what that's like. And I'm not going to tell you, you have to do it this way, you have to do it that way. What I'm going to ask you to do is consider what are some ways that you could put some constraints on your schedule to protect yourself from yourself. So maybe you do need to work nights after your kids go to bed. Maybe like 7 to 11 is your jam time, but cut it off at 11 and have a routine for ending the day at 11. Does that make sense? Not working on weekends is a rule for me. Unless there's something I'm just like so excited about or I like plan in advance, but it is just, I don't work on weekends. I shut down the computer. I often put it away and it's not there. So changing the standard for yourself, constraining your work to those 5 days, stop letting it leak out. If your work is taking you more than 5 days to accomplish, you need to go get our client capacity calculator, because I guarantee you, I would put money on this. I'm so certain. You are taking on too much client work for not enough money, and you are going to burn yourself out in the next 6 months to a point of like actual problems showing up that hopefully are not catastrophic, but sometimes are. Okay. So we need to constrain the amount of time you have to work. And I talk about in our scheduling SmackDown episode, it's one of the first episodes of the podcast, that we recommend for our clients, and this is in the client capacity calculator as well, that your client work should not take up more than 50% of your working hours. Okay. Or else it's just literally, it's literally unsustainable. It's but like living on lettuce. Like you just can't do it. You need other things. Your business needs other things to survive. Okay. So I'm going to wrap this up by talking about a couple of planning methods that I've used. One that I'm playing with right now, one that I found entirely too rigid, maybe some things in between. So I'm a really big fan of Cal Newport. I've been reading his books since I was in college. I read his book, Secrets of a Straight A Student. And after reading that book, I got my first 4.0 semester following his strategies. So good. So just like simple and easy and like uncomplicated. I know it's just another like synonym for simple. Cal Newport teaches time blocking. So it's really about just mapping out your day. But what I love about his process is that it is built in for your day not to go as planned. So how to adjust as your day goes on, as it does not go as planned, which is just chef's kiss, like my favorite thing ever. So I would definitely check out Cal Newport's stuff around time blocking. He's got some great blog posts out there. He's got his own time blocking planner that I've been trying out. I kind of actually prefer to do it myself on scrap pieces of paper. The planner just feels too formal to me, but like, to each their own. Some people love planners. Another planning system I alluded to earlier that I tried out about a year ago, and I was really about, things changed a lot in the last year, is Brooke Castillo's Monday Hour One. I no longer support Brooke Castillo's work for value-based reasons. I will not necessarily get into right now. I think a lot of the things she teaches are actually really hurtful and harmful. And one of those things, Monday Hour One, is actually, I have to be grateful because I think going through this work is some of what led me to get diagnosed with ADHD, because I was just like, what is wrong with me that I'm like trying so hard to make this work and like not make excuses and like CTFAR my brain. If you don't know what that means, like Brooke Castillo's whole thing is this model, the CTFAR model. Monday Hour One is her process of basically you brain dump everything you have to do on Monday Hour One, the first hour of Monday, and then you block it all out on your calendar. Like your calendar is totally everything you need to do. It goes on your calendar. Now, in theory, I love this idea. I love the idea that the clarity of it. In practice, the problem is if you don't do it, you're really stressed out and you can't catch up. So like if you do it, it's great. But the second you fall off, it's so hard to get back on, especially for someone who struggles with something like ADHD. So I found that to be way too rigid. However, I feel like the time blocking concept, it's similar, but more flexible and adjusts for your day and all of that. And because Brooke's whole thing, like I watched her course about this and the whole thing was basically like, then you do it. And then you do the things when they're on your calendar. And I was like, but what if that's the part you struggle with? like what if that's like that doesn't work for you? And, my impression from her training, I'm not quoting word for word. I'm just saying my impression from it. It's been a year again. Like I could be, sort of like taking this, things change in your brain and I could be morphing it into something else. But I just felt like it was like, well, that's what you do. Like, there wasn't a lot of help there, support there. So that's it. Now, here's the fun part is you're going to realize that, and you might already realize that there's more work in your business than you can possibly do. And if you're still treating yourself like a solopreneur and you're the only one working in your business, I have a really exciting episode coming next week about how to hire your first VA and 25 tasks to give them. Because people ask me all the time, how to hire someone and what do you have them do? So we're doing a whole episode about it. You cannot do it all. The point of scheduling your time is not to do it all. It's to be compassionate with yourself and figure out what is your limit, what are your bandwidths. That's what this episode is about. You are not the business. You are the owner of the business. You might be running the whole business right now, but the business is not you. And having a VA can really help you to stay on top of things. This is really necessary with anyone who is messy, creative, has ADHD, etc., is a visionary, is not the planner, is not the organizer, is struggling with implementation and follow through, is struggling with following a calendar. Having a VA is such a wonderful, wonderful thing to bring onto your business. And I'm going to talk about why I believe in hiring a VA from day one. So we'll talk about that next week. Very excited for that episode. Like I said, I'm also really soon in the next month, we're going to be announcing tickets for our virtual conference, the Yay for 100K conference. So I'm just teasing that right now. Mark your calendars for May 31st, June 1st, June 2nd, and June 4th is going to be our VIP bonus day. So more details on how to get your ticket, how to get to the bonus day, all that will be to come. But this is a conference we're really gearing towards our paying clients, like our actual Yay for 100K clients. But we also want to invite you to come with a really, really special offer. So just want to, put that seed in your brain. We talk about time management, put that on your schedule so you don't schedule anything else. And I will chat with you guys in next week's episode. Yay! Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If you love today's content and are ready to finally start making a full-time income from your business this year, make sure to get on the wait list for my program, Yay for Clients, over at yayforclients.com, and you'll be notified the next time enrollment is open. Or if you're already booked with clients and you want to learn how you can turn your signature service into a signature program and add 100K of revenue to your bottom line, come apply to my group coaching program, Yay for 100K, over at CourtneyShaw.com/apply. Thanks again and have an awesome day.